For nearly 5 decades, Donny Osmond has been one of America's most beloved entertainers. The boy who grew up smiling on stage, whose voice and charm defined an era of television innocence. He's been on tour, on screen, in front of millions. And yet, there's one person the world almost never sees: his wife. Since their marriage in 1978, Donny Osmond and Debbie Glenn have been inseparable, but never in the public eye. Fans have watched him age gracefully, watched his career rise and fall, watched him reinvent himself again and again, yet his wife remained a mystery. Over the years, rumors began to swirl. Some thought she was ill, others believed she rejected the fame. Some even wondered if there was trouble behind the perfect smile. But Donny never spoke, until now. After 45 years of silence, the singer who once lived his life under bright lights finally opens up about why the woman he loves has chosen to live in the shadows. And the truth behind it is far more human and far more heartbreaking than anyone imagined. Donny Osmond was born on December 9, 1957 in Ogden, Utah, the 7th of 9 children in a deeply religious Mormon family. In a house filled with noise, harmony, and faith, the Osmond children were taught one thing above all: family first. His father, George Osmond, was a World War II veteran turned disciplinarian manager, and his mother, Olive, was the heart of the home, gentle but firm, the kind of woman who prayed for her children every night. They sang together in the family living room long before anyone paid to watch them do it. When Donny was just 5, his older brothers, Alan, Wayne, Merrill, and Jay, had already begun performing as the Osmond brothers on The Andy Williams Show. One night, little Donny, still missing his front teeth, was brought on stage. He sang, "You Are My Sunshine." The crowd went silent for a second, then exploded. That moment changed everything. Almost overnight, Donny went from a boy in Utah to America's youngest idol. But behind the smiles, the fame came with pressure. While other children went to school, Donny rehearsed. While others made mistakes, his were televised. He once said, "I had to grow up before I even knew what being a child was." The Osmond family's strict faith kept them grounded, but it also meant constant scrutiny. Every smile, every word, every gesture had to reflect the image of the perfect family. And when Donny hit his teenage years, that image became both his blessing and his prison. He loved the stage, but the world's attention was overwhelming. Fans screamed his name everywhere he went, yet he felt alone. His life wasn't private, it was a performance. And then, at age 16, he met a girl, a quiet brunette named Debbie Glenn. She wasn't a fan, she wasn't chasing fame, she was calm, modest, and completely uninterested in the entertainment world. Donny later said, "When I met Debbie, she looked at me not as a celebrity, but as a person. For the first time, I could breathe." Their friendship began in secret. Debbie was cautious. She had seen what fame did to people. She once told friends, "I could never live that kind of life." But Donny knew, even as a teenager, that she was the one. While the world screamed his name, Debbie became the quiet anchor in the background, the person who reminded him who he really was when the cameras stopped rolling. Those early years shaped Donny Osmond into the man he would become: loyal, disciplined, and protective, perhaps overly protective, of the few things he loved that fame couldn't touch. And one of those things was her. By the early 1970s,
Donny Osmond was no longer just a child prodigy. He was a global sensation. With his signature smile and wholesome image, he became the face of family entertainment. Every week, millions tuned in to the Osmonds show or the Donny and Marie show, where he sang duets with his sister, charmed audiences, and seemed to live a perfect life. But behind that immaculate smile was a teenager growing under impossible pressure. Donny was the dream of every teenage girl and the nightmare of his own freedom. Record labels controlled his image, TV networks dictated his persona, and the Mormon Church's moral expectations shaped every move he made. At 19, while his peers were exploring life, Donny was performing in front of thousands, carefully hiding the fact that his heart already belonged to someone, Debbie Glenn. The problem was, the world wasn't ready to let him be in love. Managers feared that revealing a relationship would destroy his teen idol appeal. "If the girls know you're taken," one publicist warned, "you'll lose half your fans overnight." And so, for years, Donny and Debbie's love was a secret. They met in quiet places, spoke through letters, and dreamed of a normal life that fame would never allow. Then, in 1978, after years of pressure, Donny did the unthinkable. At just 20, at the height of his fame, he married her, privately, quietly, away from cameras. The news stunned the industry. His fan base, once rabid, turned on him overnight. Radio stations stopped playing his songs. Record sales plummeted. The boy who had been adored for his purity was suddenly too grown up. "I lost everything," Donny later said, "but I gained the only thing that mattered." While his career stumbled, his marriage grew stronger. He retreated from the spotlight for a time, choosing family over fame. It was a rare decision in an industry built on ego, but Donny never looked back. In the years that followed, he slowly rebuilt, performing in musicals, hosting TV shows, and reinventing himself as an entertainer rather than a pop idol. The world watched him mature, but Debbie remained unseen by choice. She didn't attend red carpets, she refused magazine interviews, and she stayed home raising their 5 sons while Donny toured. Her absence only deepened the mystery. Who was the woman who walked away from fame and stood by his side through everything? When asked once why Debbie never appeared in public, Donny simply smiled and said, "Because she doesn't need the world to see her. I see her, and that's enough."
By the 1980s, Donny Osmond had everything he once dreamed of: fame, fortune, and a loving family. Yet behind closed doors, he was fighting a silent war that no one could see. After his marriage, the press turned on him. He went from being America's boy to yesterday's star. Concerts drew smaller crowds, record sales plummeted, and the phone stopped ringing. The world that had once adored him moved on to newer idols. For the first time, Donny felt what it meant to be forgotten. He later confessed, "When you've been on top your whole life, the fall is brutal. It's quiet, and you start to believe maybe they were right. Maybe you're done." Depression crept in. The same smile that had sold millions of records became a mask. He began doubting everything: his career, his worth, even his faith. And through it all, Debbie stayed. But she stayed invisibly. She refused to appear in the tabloids, refused to walk red carpets, and declined TV interviews that would have made her famous overnight. When people asked why, Donny would later explain, "She didn't marry the spotlight. She married me, and she knew that to save me, she had to stay away from the circus that destroyed so many others. It wasn't easy. There were nights when the bills piled up, when record deals fell through, and when Donny wondered if he'd ever work again. He tried everything: Broadway, talk shows, even a stint on game shows. But nothing lasted. He became a punchline to the very industry that once adored him. In 1989, a breakthrough came, but not the kind he expected. Donny joined the musical Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. It was a gamble, a washed-up pop star trying theater, but it changed his life. The role revived his career, his confidence, and his spirit. Through those years of rebuilding, Debbie was his anchor, not his accessory. She raised their sons while he rebuilt his name, she handled the press when rumors spread, and she never once demanded to be part of the fame. In one rare interview, Donny admitted, "Debbie saved me by staying invisible. The world couldn't destroy what it couldn't see." Her absence wasn't distance, it was protection. A deliberate act of love from a woman who understood the difference between attention and devotion. While others mistook her silence for mystery, Donny saw it for what it was: sacrifice. By the time Donny Osmond entered his 50s, the world had changed, but so had he. He had rebuilt his career through sheer persistence. Las Vegas residencies, reality shows, talk shows, and sold-out tours. The boy idol had become a respected entertainer. Yet, one question still haunted fans: why do we never see his wife? It wasn't until years later, sitting in a quiet studio during an interview, that Donny finally gave the answer. His voice softened, his smile faded, and he said, "Because the world can be cruel, and I couldn't let it touch her." He explained how fame had almost destroyed him. The constant scrutiny, the loss of privacy, the endless pressure to be perfect. Debbie had seen it all and chosen a different path. She didn't want the cameras, the gossip, or the fake smiles. She wanted peace, and she wanted me to have it too. The truth was simple, yet profoundly moving. Debbie had spent 45 years protecting their love by keeping it invisible. When journalists chased her, she stayed silent. When tabloids tried to photograph her, she turned away. When producers begged her to appear on shows, she politely declined. And Donny? He never once pressured her to be visible. He knew that their bond didn't need to be proven to the world. In this business, he said, you can lose yourself trying to please everyone. Debbie helped me remember who I was before all of this, just a boy who wanted to sing. But that honesty came with pain. Donny admitted there were moments he felt guilty, that fame had robbed them of a normal life. The tours, the absence, the pressure, all of it weighed on him. In one emotional moment, he said, "She raised our sons, kept our home, and carried me when I couldn't carry myself. The least I could do was keep her safe from the ugliness of fame." He paused before adding, "People think privacy is about hiding something. It's not. It's about protecting what matters most." As we looked back on their 45 years together, the tragedy wasn't loss or betrayal. It was how fame had tried to take the one thing he loved most, simplicity. And somehow, Debbie's quiet strength had saved it. Their marriage survived the chaos of celebrity life, the public highs, the private lows, and the heavy price of living under a microscope. She never needed applause, and he finally realized he didn't either. The real tragedy wasn't that the world never saw her. It was that they never got to know the woman who made Donny Osmond human again.
Today, Donny Osmond stands not just as an icon of American entertainment, but as a rare survivor of fame. a man who managed to keep his soul intact in a business that devours most. He's been on stage for over 60 years, sold millions of albums, and brought joy to generations. But when you ask him what his proudest achievement is, he doesn't mention awards or records. He says one word: Debbie. In a world that celebrates exposure, their story is about the power of privacy, the quiet courage to love without needing the world's approval. Debbie Osmond's choice to stay unseen became the secret to their survival. "She's my rock," Donny once said. "She gave me a normal life in a world that doesn't have one." To his fans, Donny will always be the smiling performer who lit up the stage. But to himself, he's simply a husband, a father, and a man who learned that love grows best when it's protected, not displayed. Maybe that's the real reason you never see his wife. Because some love stories don't need a camera. They just need time and trust.